Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. My name is Craig Rainey. They call me the Renaissance Man. Welcome to my podcast. Let's see if we get started.
Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. I've got good news. I finished Sovereign Rule. The fourth novel in the Carson Brand series is complete, and it's either on the bookshelves or on its way. I thank y'all for let me say this. I've got a little bit of a situation that has come up since I finished this book, and some of the symptoms are I'm not sleeping well, I'm having strange editing dreams, and I'm having some misgivings as far as whether my book is finished or not. It's the funniest thing that I've ever run into, and by funny, it is entertaining. It's also funny strange. But before I get into that, let me encourage y'all to follow me or hit the like button. It's fun. It's easy. I do it all the time. Join me. Just reach up there and with your mouse and just click like. If you need to contact me, which I hope you do, you can get hold of me directly in my email, which is craig@craigrainey.com. And if you want to cyberstalk me, and I encourage that, my website is craigrainey.com. I'm also available anywhere social media is pervade. If it's old man social media, I'm there. You're not going to find me on Snapchat or some of these others, but you will find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Most of my podcasts appear, in addition to any platform where podcasts are broadcast, also on YouTube. So, I mean, I'm pretty easy to find. It's not difficult to track me down. But please leave a comment, suggestion for a future episode, whatever you want to do. But hooray! Sovereign Rule is finished, and it didn't take that long for me to do it. For those of you who have been following, you know that I've been commiserating just a tad about how long it's going to take me to get it done, and I'm going to say I'll have it done by January, have it done by December, have it done whatever it may be, and it was completed by December 12th, and today is December 14th, 2022, and I just uploaded it to Ingram, my distributor. So it won't be long before it's available in all the bookstores, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, anywhere. And by the way, I always encourage anyone, particularly my readers, but anyone, buy your books from Bricks on the Ground. I'm on Amazon, and Amazon is a great tool, and it has really made publishing easier for everyone. I think it is it's opened the door for people to publish and write books and to get their ideas out there that it was never available before. And there are other platforms that aren't as big but are making those inroads as well. But again, the Barnes and Nobles, the Indigos, Europe, y'all have a lot of bookstores. Good for you. And but support your local Bricks on the Ground bookstores. It's a really tough road for them. Amazon is the largest bookseller in the world, and they're dominating everything. They're putting a lot of stores out of business, and not just bookstores, but every kind of store. And well, that's part of the evolution of life. That's what happens. You either learn to compete or you go away. I think in the arena of art, which books are part of that arena, I think we need to support those galleries that have that. One of my favorite places, and long before I ever wrote a book, one of my favorite places was a bookstore. Going in and perusing through it and looking at the covers, it's just a magical place, and I would encourage you to do that. I, like anyone, I mean, every day's Christmas for me. I buy from Amazon regularly, and as long as I got money and an internet connection, man, they're going to love me. And so, I mean, of course, my books are available there, and Kindle ebooks, it's already up there. Print, hardcover, got them all. But again, here's my advice: go to a bookstore, go in there and just walk the aisles. You'd be surprised at what you find. One of the problems I've got with buying online, I don't even like to buy my groceries online. And the reason for it is because, well, I'm going to put it this way. The big grocery chain, grocery stain, is that a Freudian slip? The big grocery chain here in the Texas area is H-E-B. And great store, by the way. But H-E-B, like every other store, is embracing this buy online, and either they deliver or curbside. You can go pick it up and everything else. And to me, it's a blight. I think they should have a distribution center. I don't think that those people with these big giant racks should be going around blocking my way, because I took the trouble to darken the door to walk into a grocery store. That means two things for this grocery store. One is I'm committed to them. I showed up. I got in the car and drove over. I didn't just sit there in my underwear and order my groceries, wait for somebody to bring it to me. But the more important one, and I've shared this with grocers and managers, and even with the tellers, or not tellers, but the checkers, they get tired of listening to me, is that I will impulse buy usually a 33 to 40% more than what I would have purchased. I go into the list. My wife makes me do that. We go in with the list. We do that together. But if we spend easily $200 a week on groceries. Well, if we stuck with our list, it would be more like 120 or 110. And then, so an extra $60 to $80 a week, we're throwing into just, hey, this looks good. Let's throw this on. Let's take advantage of these sales. And I think that those are your more profitable and more beneficial clients than those who just buy online, because you can't do any browsing online. I mean, if you try browsing on Amazon, they're going to give you recommendations, but you're not walking down the aisle and saying, man, isn't that cool? I'm going to buy this little drone or whatever it may be. You're not going to do that. So I recommend it. And the same thing with bookstores. When you walk in, you are going to see racks and tables of books that you never would have thought to Google or look for or to put in a search bar. And some of the best books, I've been turned on to some great authors and some great topics and great genres just by walking through going, hey, that's an interesting cover. Let me look at that. They're reading the back and go, hey, okay, I'm going to give this one a try. And then I became a fan. And, I recommend you do that. It will really expand. It'll expand you as a human. It'll make your mind, where you'll go, oh man, I'm embracing these different genres and this different subject matter, and it's very healthy. It's very good for you to do. But anyway, that's all the retail I'm going to talk for the day. But Sovereign Rule, I'd mentioned that I was going to try to have it done by December, and it is. I finished up Reasonable Sin, which was the third novel in the Carson Brand series. That one published date was sometime in August. So it was September, October, November, December. 4 months later, I've got a book out. Started it in late August, early September, and then the cover art, wrote it, edited, published it. It's out. So that was pretty quick. My goal is to put out minimum 2 books a year, and I mentioned that on an episode a while back. And I did it last year too, but I don't really consider that bona fide because it was a sales book, and I'm a fiction writer. And so, when I came up with a sales book, I am a consultant in my full-time job. I have not reached the point of acclaim and success to where I can hang my hat on being a writer and author. So I have a day job, and my day job involves a lot of sales. I've been doing sales since I entered the job world. Construction is a big part of what I did, and so my consulting business is a remodeling firm, which I have another podcast called Remodeling Advice from the Expert. But sales is everything I've done is predicated on sales, and I feel like that because of people are so concerned about getting 4 and 5 star reviews, 5 stars particularly, that they're afraid that they're going to upset somebody by implementing some professional sales. And I'm going to be brief on this. So I decided to write a book to help these folks out so that they can help people get what they want, because sales is considered high pressure. It's considered manipulative, and it is considered coercion. And in the hands of the rank amateur, which and this rank amateur, they're more concerned about their bottom line and making the sales numbers than they are about the success and the happiness of their clients. Well, professional sales has to do completely with getting the client what they want. It's not trying to talk them into something they don't need and didn't ever need, won't ever need again. It's something where you say, well, you have a need, let me fulfill this, and this is a product that I've done my research, and I think this is the one that you should try. I think it would have the answer to your questions. And if you're able to support that with reasonable, friendly guidance, a lot of times the answer is yes. And what this book was is I think that because sales is an art form and it's going away, I decided to write a book about it. It took me 90 days to get that book out. So that's why I really don't consider it one of my 2 books a year things, because I'm not a big nonfiction fan. That's probably the only nonfiction book I'll ever write. I've got a bookshelf full of nonfiction, and primarily that's research material. Everything from political, both left and right. I'm not a ideologue. I've got historical tomes. I've got self-help, do-it-yourself. You would not believe the books I have on writing. And which we'll get to that. I've got a couple of books I recommend, but it's I just really wanted to do minimum 2 fiction novels a year, and I did it in 2022. Reasonable Sin, and then the next one was the third, and then the fourth book is Sovereign Rule, the one that just came out 2 days ago. So I'm there. I have achieved that at the end of 2022. My goal is 3 books in 2023. Minimum. Let's see if I can get more than that. But the way things are looking right now with a little issue that I've got going on, I think I'm going to achieve that and probably surpass it. I have found that my writing career has progressed, and let me give you a brief catch up on that. My very first book was a Western entitled Massacre at Agua Caliente, and it came about because of my film career. I was talking to one of the executive producers with Mutt Productions in the San Antonio area, and they're a big South Texas movie house now. They're really developed a wonderful reputation, and they're big boys. My agent, which I still have an acting agent, she doesn't like me very much because I don't do commercials. I don't consider commercials acting, but in the film world, in movie world, commercials are where you make all your money because commercials pay. Films don't always pay at this level. Many of you may not be aware that only 10% of all the actors in the United States make over $2,500 per year. That's around $200 a month. That's the top 10%. The other 90% make less than that. In my heyday, I was in the top 10%, barely. So it's not something that you do, but commercials are how these agents make their money, because they make a percentage of what the job pays the actor, and that's how they make their money. So my agent spent all her time saying, Craig, I need you to go do commercial work. And doggedly, I'm not going to do it. I've got a great job. I make good money. I don't need the money. And she keeps me around, I think, because I'm kind of a minor celebrity. You Google me, you find me. Craig Rainey, yeah, he's an actor. I've seen he's done 60 films, blah, blah. Now he's got 6 books out, and you see who he's and so my agent, I think that's the only reason she keeps me around. But anyway, I was going somewhere with this, and I almost lost my mind. But anyway, in the writing business, you become prolific by. I completely lost my place, and I apologize. So we'll get back to it. But anyway, I don't do. Here's what it is. I don't do nonfiction. I do fiction. That's the direction I want to go in. It's a very difficult one. Nonfiction would be a lot easier on me as far as English prose style, this kind of thing, because anytime you're online, if you're a writer, and by the way, this podcast primarily is for readers, but I do have writers that listen. I get their messages and some of their comments. But as a writer, it's much easier and much more. The road for nonfiction is way wider and much more accepting. It's all downhill. I got to fight an uphill battle with fiction that nonfiction do not. There are more nonfiction books sold in the market than there are fiction books. So it's a much broader market, a much more. There's much more available success there, and the problem that I have with that is not really a problem. It's more of a decision I made, is that I want to embrace the art of writing. For me, writing is a beautiful thing, and communication now has been relegated to, I don't know, in a lot of cases, and I'm talking about the written word too, content creation. A lot of this is just, It's kind of like monkeys grunting at each other and throwing poop at each other in the zoo. I mean, that's a form of communication. Sometimes it's effective and it does work, but it's communication. But that's not what the art of language is. That's not what the art of writing is. The art of writing is something that when you convey ideas, and I'm a storyteller. My medium happens to be the written word, but I'm a storyteller. So when I'm conveying this story to someone, it's my job to convey it effectively and attractively and with some insight, but also with some excitement. It's got to be something that excites the reader and sparks their imagination and whets their appetite. That's what the skill is in it. And when I came out with Mascara d'Agua Caliente, the reason I did is I mentioned Mutt Productions. I was talking to the executive producer. We had just finished up with, and I was the antagonist, the main bad guy in the Return of Johnny V. And it's a grindhouse movie. It's good. It's available. You can get it. I think it's on Amazon. It's in quite a few places. But anyway, one of the distributor who picked it up said, "Man, you guys are doing such a great job, and there's new indie houses and so forth. You guys are one of the top ones we're looking at. Can you come up with something else?" And what they were looking for is a movie with animals, dog, cat, horse, whatever, sci-fi. Which I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, but I like sci-fi. And then the last one was westerns, and I am a huge western fan. I've got kind of a cowboy background, and I've worked on a couple working ranches, and I ride, rope, all kind of stuff. So and I grew up on westerns, just love them. So anyway, the story goes, and it's on another one. I ended up writing the script with the same title, Mascara d'Agua Caliente. I sent it off to several film festivals and won a lot of acclaim, a lot of awards, including most likely to be produced as a movie, best period piece, and I won best breakout writer because I was a brand new screenwriter. So it was well received, but there were a lot of edits that went to it before the final script came out because it was too long. Was one note that came from a big production house out of Hollywood. Some of my characters needed to live longer. I was killing them off, and they said, "Man, we need to make that character live longer because the audience is going to be interested in this character." I had to make my main character more likable because he's a villain, is the main character in that. But anyway, so when I wrote the novel, I decided that all the stuff that was edited out and cut out and that didn't make the final script, I wanted to make it in the novel. So I wrote the novel. And speaking quickly about this because I'm trying to catch you up, but the style of writing that I employ now that's in Sovereign Rule, my 6th book, is not in Mascara d'Agua Caliente. That is a completely different style. As we progress as authors, our vision for the books change, our vision on ourselves as writers change. And when I wrote this book, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to get it out there. I wanted to be a writer, and so I did it. And I've got a background in writing. I mean, I've written all my life since I was a kid. Just real quick for those writers out there, and maybe if some of you readers, you just want to read a good book on writing. My very first book and I've read several, but my very first worthwhile book that I read on writing is called The Writer's Art by James J. Kilpatrick. And I believe that Mr. Kilpatrick was a writer for the New York Times. I mean, just very prolific, very well, very famous guy. And I've read this book probably 3 or 4 times. And one of the things I love about it is the clarity it gives you as a writer. It's just, I don't want to give you too much detail in the book because I don't want to bore you any more than I normally do. But the Writer's Art, what it does, it's a real crash course in writing clearly and conveying your message accurately and in a way that people aren't going to be put off by it or bored by it. And so that one, in fact, the issue I'm having right now, I'm going to share with you. I'm going to read this book again to help me get past this. And then the other one, this one came later, is, and this is a must if you're a writer. If you don't own this book, I think that you're really going to have a problem with success. And this book is, it's called Story Engineering, Mastering the 6 Core Competencies of Successful Writing by Larry Brooks. Story Engineering by Larry Brooks. Get a copy. And by the way, like I was talking about, get a physical copy of it. I think I'm looking at the one I've got here. I've got notes in it, asterisks. I've got probably 8 or 9 post-it note sheets in there where I've got pages I need to look back at, and so that's a great book for writing, and without belaboring that, but you really need to study those, and I plan to get back into both of these because of the issue that I'm having, and let's talk about that real quick. So when I finished this book, Sovereign Rule. And, in 4 months, I got it done. It came out. I'm going through some writing withdrawals because to publish a book, to produce this body of work and publish this book in 4 months, it took a large commitment of time. And as I mentioned, I've got a day job, so I'm doing my day job. I'm participating in family stuff, and then I'm trying to work in, time to write where I can write, 2,000-3,000 words a day, and that's a feat. Life gets in the way. One of my previous episodes talks about how do you allocate your time to that? How do you do it? And I did it, but it's almost like I'm going through the DTs. I'm going through withdrawals now. I had a dream last night where in this book I'd written and I'd written some part of the book, and I was thinking about, oh man, it's not going to fit. It's it's not the same feel as the rest of the book. And I was, and as writers, we get caught up in the art of the book, and it's like, well, it's very artistic, but it's not going to match up with this. And I couldn't quite figure it out. And it woke me up at midnight, and I was just, and when you're being honest, and sidebar, when you're being honest as an author, somebody who has a podcast, and you're telling what's going on, I'm making myself very vulnerable on this. And I risk opening myself up to criticism, but I hope that my defense against that is the quality of the work I'm doing and the quality of the novels I'm publishing. So hopefully that'll buttress that up. But it was just an unshakable feeling that I had messed up, and there was something that was going to be completely wrong with this book. And I'm getting to a point, by the way. So I got up, and I'm a huge San Antonio Spurs fan, and it's hard doing it right now. They won 3 games in a row, so that's helpful. But so I got up and I watched one of my recorded Spurs games that I didn't get a chance to watch the other day, and sitting there watching it, trying to get something else on my mind other than this. Let me cleanse myself. And so for 2 hours, I'm sitting there watching this game, and then I go upstairs, go back to bed, boom, it hits me again. And so my wife, she could tell I'm awake. I guess I was down there, and she woke up while I was downstairs, but she goes, "Everything all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just having these strange thoughts that, maybe I didn't edit this book right and everything else." She goes, "I've seen some of it, you read some of it to me. It seems okay. It seems good." And I said, "Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things. I think I'm just going through withdrawals of not writing." And anyway, so I went to sleep, and of course, I dreamt about the same thing, and woke up this morning with with the same thought. But anyway, so that's what I'm going through, and I've done some self-analysis, and this is what it is. I need to get back on the horse and start writing again, but unfortunately, the creative bowl of batter is empty. I really emptied that out, and I exhausted that supply of creativity to get to this point in the book. And I love this novel. I was talking a second ago about Mascaro d'Agua Caliente, what my aim was for that. My aim was to get in the business, to be a writer, to publish my first book and participate in the industry. And I did. My second one was Stolen Valor, which was the first Carson Brand novel. And by the way, many people ask me, they say, well, should I read these in order, or are they standalone? Well, the simple answer is yes, you should. You should read them in order for 2 reasons. And let's be funny. The first one is because I want you to read all my books and buy them, and I want to make money off of you. Okay, that's a joke. They are standalone. you could read Sovereign Rule right now and completely understand it and get it, and you wouldn't be missing much, because just the casual references to the past, those come up. And it's one of those things, oh, this is a character he knew before. No big deal. If it's something that impacts the plot of the book, then I go into more detail and bring more of that past information up and say, well, this is what happened then, and this is how it impacts the plot today. But the biggest thing about reading these in order is, when I was younger, the series that was in syndication at that time was Star Trek, with William Shatner as Captain Kirk, and Leonard Nimoy and those guys. When I watched and at that time it was on TV when I was a kid, so when I watched it, it came on once a week, and then later on it came on every afternoon, at a certain time. It just, as time went on. But I never really, and I saw every one of the episodes at least 3 or 4 times, but I never really understood who Captain Kirk was until I was probably in my late 20s and maybe early 30s, and then I happened to get all these episodes on VHS. I think it was a roommate of mine. He had all the Star Trek episodes on VHS. It wasn't like today where you can just jump on Amazon or Netflix and binge something. So I had my VHS player there, and I watched every single episode of every season. I think it was on 3 seasons, so I'm guessing. But anyway, I watched every one. And one of the things I learned is that Captain Kirk was a bit of a brigand, kind of careless. I'd never really understood when the feature films came out why he was so maligned, and why they wouldn't give him his own ship, and why he had to pretty much fall into it, and everything's exploding, so Captain Kirk gets his own ship. Seems like a guy that accomplished what he accomplished for Starfleet. He became an admiral almost begrudgingly, and whatever feature film came out that he became the admiral, and I think because he was older, they had to put something else in there. But anyway, it doesn't matter. What I didn't understand, because I only watched one at a time, and I wouldn't watch them in order or anything else, I didn't understand who Captain Kirk was. And then I binged it, and I got it. This guy was a loose cannon. Starfleet hated him. And I know everybody goes, oh, you know that. No, I'm telling you, you need to binge this to truly see it. Because Captain Kirk, not only was he kind of an arrogant dude, which he had good reason for it, but he was absolutely a brigand. He would do whatever he wanted to do. It didn't matter what anybody else said. And that's the reason he went on the away teams, because he didn't think anybody else could do it except for him. And he was one of those guys that, he just did what he wanted to. He had one of the first starships, and, he was going where no man has gone before. And, so he was that way. And I didn't get it until I watched him in order. Well, with Carson Brand, the series, if you read them in order, you're going to go, oh, I get it. I see this. You will see the development of this character, this Carson Brand guy. You will see him develop over now 4 novels. And the first one's Stolen Valor. Y'all bear with me on this one, because on an Origins book, you got to do a lot of character development. And so that's the one criticism I've had. I'm enjoying 4.5 to 5 stars all the time. But on this one, they say, it starts off a little slowly. And the reason for it is because you have to know who he was before he became who he is now in book number 4. So, yeah, I would say, read them in order. But at the same time, they're standalone. You could read Sovereign Rule and absolutely enjoy it and say, yeah, it's a great book standalone. But I do recommend you read them all. And that was a joke about them making money. I don't make that much off of them. But that's not the point. The point is that my readers are very important to me, and I try to serve those readers. And so what I did from book 1 to book 4, I've got a plan. I know where Carson Brand and where this story is going to be 5 books from now, and I'm headed that direction. So I don't want him to arc too much. I don't want to give too much away. I don't want him to, he's dealing with a lot of stuff right now in this book, and I think Sovereign Rule, the end of Reasonable Sin, which is 3, and Sovereign Rule number 4. It's getting a little dark, and it's getting a little dark because of what he's gone through. And if you've read them, you know that the guy's life has really, really gone through some serious changes, and he's loved and lost and had to do some things he's not proud of, and so he's getting to the point, like we all would, where we're starting to look back and go, man, a little self-analysis. I'm not enjoying this at all. What's going on? But what I like about Sovereign Rule, story-wise, is I took a really, really different turn on this one. It's got a completely different feel to it. You're not going to find this feel in any other action thriller series book. It's not that. It goes down a road that you're going to go, what? Not enough to change the genre, but enough to go, okay, that's a new way of looking at that. Interesting. And I hope you like it. I love it. I think it's really good. But when I wrote Stolen Valor, okay, that was my second book. When I wrote Stolen Valor, I had a different aim for that book than I did for Mascaro d'Agua Caliente. Mascaro d'Agua Caliente, by the way, in no way is similar to my writing today. And in that book, I was talking about story engineering. Larry Brooks talks about that. He says, well, writing is comparable to a formal education. Your first book is it's kind of you're graduating from high school, and you're getting your feel, you're getting your first taste of life, and that's your education for it. Then you go to college, and then you get your associate's degree. Well, that's your second book. It's your associate's degree, or just 2 years in college. Your third book is a bachelorette. You've actually graduated to the next level. So, your third book you got there. Your fourth book is your master's, and your fifth book is your doctorate, and then six you're actually, it's more OJT. And I am at book number 6, and I think I've found my voice. And despite my nightmares about, I don't think I got the writing correct on this, it doesn't sound the same. My voice, in fact, my wife asked me this. She's probably my toughest interviewer. But she said, when you talk about your voice, what do you think your voice is? Well, how would you describe that if someone were to ask? Give me your elevator pitch, Craig, because she knows I can be long-winded, as you do. And I said, all right, I tell stories this way. I'm that guy that just ran all the way up the street, saw you standing there in front of your house, and ran all the way up the street. I get there, I'm out of breath, I got my hands resting on my knees, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, let me tell you what just happened. You got to know this. It's important that you know. And I'm going to give you a quick, very compelling story of it to the point. There's nothing that I'm telling you in that when I'm conveying this information after running up the street and being out of breath. I'm not wasting a breath on it. There's not a line of dialogue in one of my novels that does not drive the plot. There is nothing that the characters do that does not drive the plot. I want you, when you're done reading Sovereign Rule, I want you out of breath. I want you saying, man, that was a roller coaster ride. That was something else. Not bad. So as my aim for each book has changed, with Stolen Valor, the first Carson Brand book is my second book, I went into it going, okay, so I wrote this book. It took me 5 years to get Mascaro d'Agua Caliente done. And, it's just one of those things. I didn't have the skill set for it, to the discipline to write. So it got put on the shelf for a year at a time. So it didn't, it took time to get it out there. But in Stolen Valor, I thought, okay, this is a very important story, a very important series I'm about to start. I'm about to begin something that is going to turn into an epic story. And not epic by, it's epic, dude. Epic story means that it is a large scope, long, a lot of moving parts type story. That's what an epic tale is, and that's what this is. And so I thought, well, I can't begin this story and have it substandard. I can't have it where it's not going to read like anybody in my peer group as far as the competitors, my competition, the Jack Reachers and the Jack Ryans and all the other Jacks and the Johns and everything. It has to be that ilk. And so my aim was to give it that feel, give it that, it's got to have that same genre taste. And I think I did it. Then I got to my next one, which was Dark Motive. And Dark Motive was the second one in the Carson Brand series. So I started generating my character, and I started generating more feel for him and his arc, and really thickening up the story and adding some subplot to this kind of thing. It was my aim in that one was to try to develop my character to where he was unique in the genre, and I think I accomplished that. And then Reasonable Sin hit. And Reasonable Sin, the third book, is when I started working on my voice, where and all of them have it to an extent, because I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't really know how to get there until Reasonable Sin. Reasonable Sin, started getting there. I was like, okay, this is it. This is that out of breath guy that's got his hands on his knees, just telling the story to the people standing up there with a watering hose in their hand, in the front of their yard, saying, what the heck is going on with this sweaty, excited guy that came down the room telling me a story? That I was on my way. Sovereign Rule, my aim was to have that voice, and I've got it. I accomplished it. And now there's always room for growth, and there will always be. We're a work in progress. Like I said, the definition of success is not the accomplishments of a goal. The definition of success is the continuous journey towards the accomplishment of a worthwhile goal. And so I will always be on that path, always be on that journey. I'm a lifetime student. Everything I know, I've learned from someone else. I don't have an original thought in my head. And as an author, it's hard to admit that, but it's true. And so I'm continually a student. And that's why I encourage comments from y'all, because believe me, I learn. But I found the first look. And I'm talking about autonomously. That's the reason I was able to write this 78,000 word book in 4 months, was because I found the voice and made it easier for me. And as I wrote that book, it took a lot out of me. And that's what art does. It takes a piece of you and it preserves it. And so what happens, my challenge I'm facing, my issue right now, is that bowl of creativity, it's been scraped out like a bowl with batter, and it's been scraped out and it's empty, just with, little globs of stuff on there that I'm looking at going, man, how do I turn this into something new? And so yeah, that's what this podcast is about. How am I going to fix that? How am I going to get back on the horse? Because my goal, which, as I mentioned last year, I did 2 books. Don't really count it because one was nonfiction. I did 2 this year. I did Reasonable Sin, and I did Sovereign Rule, all in the same year. So this one I've got 3 planned. So, and in fact, I don't even have a Carson Brand book planned right now. I know where the next one's going. I already do. I already know exactly what it's going to be. It's alluded to in the epilogue of of Sovereign Rule, but I know where it's going. I have a personal goal of doing these 3 books, and it's 3 different stories and kind of I don't know. They're all related to an extent, and I'll cover that later. But those are the ones I've got planned. But anyway, so the creative thing, when you really, really ramp it up, that's and when you do that, all of a sudden you fall, oh man, I got withdrawals because of the creativity thing. And so how I'm going to fix that is, I mentioned these 2 books, The Writer's Art and Story Engineering. I'm going to reread them. And I know what's in them. Believe me, these things are, if a book can be threadbare, these books are threadbare. They have a lot of notes. They're pretty worn. On the Writer's Art, it's a green cover, and it's got white marks all through it where it's been laid over on its back and on its side, on its front, and when it's been opened up all the way and, held open for weeks as I studied something on it. Both books are that way, but it's kind of like working out. Even though I've read them before, it's not like it's not like Christmas, which is Christmas time right now, but it's not like Christmas carols where you hear them every year and it's like, okay, I've heard this before. It's the only time you listen to the same songs over and over and over, year after year. It's not that. It's more like going to the gym and working out. And, you work the same apparatus, you do the same exercises, the same reps, the same sets, but you have a benefit from it every time. And it's a life enhancing benefit. And the same thing with these books. I've got 20 something different books on writing. And these 2 are the only 2 that I go back to. I've got everything from, how to be a good writer and story structure and everything else, all the way down to how to publish and market your book. I've got them all, but these 2, they're the ones. Anyway, so moving forward, I'm facing what many writers face, and it's not writer's block. It's not that. As I mentioned in a previous episode, you have writer's block. Read a book. I mean, you'll be fine. I'm struggling with a book I'm reading right now, and as somebody who fights the battle every day, the writer's battle, and generating that creativity and trying to be prolific at the same time, which those 2 things don't generally align, creativity and being prolific. But as somebody who battles that, when I read a book from a millions of books selling author, and I see that they're phoning it in, and I see that they're just being prolific, it's very disappointing. And I understand why. I'm like everybody else. I'm constantly bombarded on email by, hey, would you ever entertain having a ghostwriter? And, we'll write your books and put your name on it. For X amount of dollars, we'll do this. And, you'll have 100 books written in the next 3 years. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to do that. I owe my readers more than that. And those things are available. I know of and have mentioned several authors that are doing that. And they suffer. What's your legacy? What will posterity say about you when you're, you phoned it in, when it's not, I'm not saying I'm trying to be a classic literary giant. That's not going to happen. I write trashy novels. I write fiction, whatever. But I think that the creativity end of it and the journey, and ladies and gentlemen, that's why I'm having this episode, is I want to share with you the inside of what's going on. I want you to get an insight on the struggle and how hard I am and many authors work for you, and how we suffer for it. And artists have always done that. That's what they do. I've been in film, I've been a musician and an author. Suffering is my life. That's what I do. I suffer, and I'm happy to do it. It's my chosen path, and I choose it every day freely. And I don't ever think about quitting or doing something else. And so obviously it's not this pain that I'm going through. No, I'm so long suffering. The suffering is like like the guys in the Tour de France, some of the greatest athletes on the planet, and they suffer for their sport, but they love their sport and they wouldn't do anything else. Fall off a bike, break your collarbone, skin your knees, whatever, spend 6 months in the hospital. They come right back and do it again because of the love. The suffering is not a bad thing. It's what creativity is based upon. It's what any type of human endeavor, worthwhile human endeavor, consists of. And I embrace it and love it. And I'm happy to produce something that people read and they tell me wonderful things and bad things too. I get some negative. I'm fine with it. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But anyway, just wanted to share that with you. I tend to be a bit more succinct in what I want to say. And I do ramble. That's who I am. But I tend to have a point that I'm going towards. And so I would say if I had to wrap up with one point, I'm going to say this one point. I'm very pleased with Sovereign Rule. I think it is the first book that has come out that is me speaking. It's my voice. And that's one of the 6 core competencies that are outlined in story engineering, is find your voice. And I think I've done that. And I'm going to keep working towards that. The next Carson Brand novel, and I'm sitting here thinking, I got to write one in 2023. Got to do another one. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. But if you haven't read them, read all 4. It's a good read. I'm telling you. I've sold over 20,000 of them since we started writing these a couple years ago. And and I say we because my wife is an integral part of me getting these things out. And then I've got I've got a team of people that contribute to things, everything from cover to editing to proofreading to, publishing and everything else. So, it's a group effort, and I'm really lucky to have found these folks who help me. But, all 4 books, I recommend you read them, and I'll keep things going. But I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your readers, and I appreciate you putting up with me and listening to me for this amount of time, because I needed to talk to you about this. I needed to tell you about it. And I hope you got something out of it. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.